Hello and welcome back to the Simple Joy Show. When we start decluttering, we often encounter fears that can hold us back, especially those that are financially related. It's not just about the things that we own in our possessions, it's about the money that we've spent to attain them and then the perceived value we then attach onto those. So today I'm going to cover the financial fears that often get in our way when we start our decluttering journey, and I'm going to look at how they might manifest themselves and what you can do to overcome them. This is the Simple Joy Show, the podcast for people who are ready to declutter and simplify their homes and lives to create more space, time, energy and freedom. I am your host, Hayley Forster, mother, wife and declutter coach, and I'm going to be sharing with you simple bite-sized nuggets to help you on your journey to living a simpler life through the power of decluttering. So if you're ready to choose calm over chaos, then let's dive into today's show. Hello, how are you all? We're in the thick of the summer holidays here in the Forster household, so we're juggling work, childcare, voluntary things, house stuff. It's bonkers, isn't it? But I always try to remind myself you only get a short amount of time of these summer holidays with your children, and I must say I do actually really enjoy it. I think you can worry about how you're going to juggle everything, but you always find a way, and I love spending the time with my daughters, and they're at a lovely age now where we can they can attain themselves, but then also we can go out and do lots of little girly shopping trips and stuff together. So yeah, we're having a lovely time, and we're going on holiday in a couple of weeks as well, so we're going to start getting prepared for that. But yeah, I hope you are having a lovely summer. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. I want to continue the theme that I started last week, which is about decluttering fears. And I'll be honest, there's so many of them. I had to cut the theme down into a few different episodes because I thought if I do this all in one, it's going to be quite overwhelming for you, and some of the fears might not necessarily apply to you. So I've tried to bucket them into different categories so you can dip in and out for the ones that are relevant to you. So the topic that I want to focus on today is about financial fears. And when we eliminate items from our home, fears do come up about the money that we've spent on them and the perceived value that we then associate with those possessions, and they can manifest themselves in lots of different ways. So I've got 4 main financial fears that I want to just touch upon, how they may feel for you, and therefore what you can remind yourself of and how to get through them. The first one I want to touch on is worrying about wasting money when you're getting rid of items. And it can be really difficult to see all the stuff that you've bought and that you've spent your hard-earned money on, but now you don't really use them, you don't need them, or you're falling out of love with them. They're just not something that you want in your home anymore. And sometimes letting go of that stuff can really feel as though you're wasting your money. It can feel like keeping that clutter means that you're not wasting the money that you spent on it in the first place. So what can you do about that? Now, the important thing here is to remember that you're not wasting money by getting rid of something that you don't use. The money was actually wasted when you bought it in the first place. When you bought something that you didn't really need or you didn't really love at that moment. So keeping an item you don't need or you don't use or you don't love won't bring you that money back. All it's going to do is add clutter, it's going to add stress, and it's going to add guilt into your life. And who needs that? Let's be honest. And in addition to that, obviously all the things that I keep mentioning all the time, it's stealing your time, it's stealing your energy, and it's stealing the space in your home as well. So really you've got to think, is it worth it? The money's already spent, so you can let go of that item and the guilt that goes along with it. And what you need to do is just use that as a lesson to help you shop more intentionally moving forward. You've got to remind yourself when you're out there and you see something, oh, I like that, I think that would be lovely in my house, or oh, I could do with that. just question yourself. Do that purchase pause that I mentioned in the last episode. Stop, ask yourself, do I really need it? Is there not something else that I've got at home that could already do the job? Is that going to replace something that I already like, or is it actually not as good as what I've already got? So that purchase pause is incredibly powerful to just question your shopping choices and help you not make the same mistakes again that you have done in the past. Another common financial worry is worrying about having to replace or rebuy an item if you decide to declutter something. So are you going to declutter something now and then you're going to need it a few months down the line? Again, and I'm going to keep going back to this, once you know this is at the root of your decluttering fears, what you can do is then reframe it and question, actually, is this a valid feeling? Is this a valid fear that I've got? So you need to decide what's more important to you. It might be more convenient for you to keep everything that you own because you won't need to replace it. You won't need to rebuy it in the future because you've got it in your house somewhere. But are you willing to risk that you might need this at some point at some unknown time in the future, but you've got to live with a house of clutter and the associated stress that it causes in the meantime? Is that worth it for you? Or would you rather clear the clutter, create a home, a house that you love, makes you feel comfortable, makes you feel loved and relaxed, and free up your time, your space and your energy? Would you rather have that now, but run the risk of maybe needing something or replacing something that you might need in the future? And that's really the scenario that you need to pull into this. It's up to you to decide what's more important to you in that moment. And what I will say is, don't forget, just because you might need an item again in the future doesn't necessarily mean that you might need to rebuy it. You might be able to borrow it from a friend or a neighbour. You might be able to find something else to use, or you might even work out, actually, do you know what, I can do without it. So ask yourself that question, is it worth living with it and that item causing additional clutter and additional stress in your day-to-day life? Or would you rather be prepared for some instance that may occur at some point in the future or not? Another financial fear is the fear of getting rid of something that actually might be worth something in the long run. And I'll be honest, that's not one that I've come across that frequently, because I would say that in our kind of modern consumer culture, world of mass production of items, and the fact that trends change so frequently, not a lot of us have things in our home that do hold a lot of value after you buy them, unless you've got family heirlooms, things like that that may have been passed down through the generations. So what I would just say on this is, it's not worth holding on to everything just in case something in there is going to be worth something one day. Now, I had a computer, as I mentioned, when I was young, I was a bit of a hoarder. Well, I was a hoarder for most of my life. It's only been the last 10 years or so that I've got through that. But one thing that really used to bug me was that I had a Commodore 64 computer when I was younger, and also an early Nintendo. I can't remember which version it was. I'm not up on my computers, but I remember telling my husband about these a few years ago, and he said, "Oh wow, they can be worth some money these days. Like, have you still got them?" And I said no, and he was mortified. And it wasn't actually my doing, although within the last 10 years I probably would have decluttered them at some point. But it was my dad. He threw them away when I moved house. So I moved out of my dad's house when I was 21 to move in with my now husband, and he had a big clear out when I left, obviously, and he threw away my Nintendo and my Commodore 64, and I'm not entirely sure of the value of them, but I know that they do have some monetary value, more than what they were worth back in the 80s and 90s when I had them. But I was really upset about that, because I had something that was worth monetary value, and back in my early 20s, I didn't really have a lot. I didn't have much money. I was just starting out in the world of work, and I thought, you know what, that would have been fabulous. I could have kept them, and I could have built them up over the years, and I could have maybe sold them at some point and earned a bit of money from it. And that was a big thing for me when I was younger, because I would look at stuff and I would think about the potential value it had for me in the future. And I wasn't looking at what was valuable to me in that moment. So try and reframe things a little bit. If it's not adding value to your life today, because it's not something that you use, you need, or you love, can you get rid of it? So go back to that scenario I mentioned earlier, where you've got to question yourself, what is most important to you in the moment? Is it more important that you keep these items just in case they might be worth something one day, and then live with the consequences of being surrounded by clutter? Or is it more important for you to let go of those items and thank them for the time that you've had them, but then just pass them on and just say, okay, it's okay if you become worth something in the future. It's you are not serving me at this moment in time, and live with the benefits of having less clutter in your home. So just keep going back to that scenario. Is it worth it? Is it worth you keeping multiple items in your house just in case 10, 20, 30 years down the line you might get 50 or 100 quid for it? Now, I'm not including items that you know are worth something and you know are going to increase in worth over time. Now, those are kind of a separate category, so I wouldn't even bulk those into this section. This section is very much focused on things that you're keeping it's very similar to the just in case items that I mentioned in the last episode, but this is just in case it becomes worth something. So this is something that you're not sure is going to happen. So I love investments. I love thinking about investing in things that are going to give you back something in the future. So if you've got items in your home that you know will do that, then that's perfectly fine. What you do need to question yourself is about those just in case items. And the last one I want to touch on is about when you can focus on recuperating your money spent. So it's really, really easy for us to hold on to clutter with the intention of selling it one day. Now, this was a big thing for us in our family, because I was very much about, well, I've spent money on this and I don't want to just give it away. I want to get something back for it. And you want to recoup some of the money that you perhaps have spent on it. But actually that becomes a massive excuse in itself. So what you want to do with this one is, if you know you've got the time and you want to put in the effort and you're quite happy selling items, then that's perfectly fine. Go for it. I have done that in the past with certain items. And me and my husband actually made a fair bit of money getting rid of media. Like I sold loads of DVDs through a website, I don't know if it still exists actually, called Music Magpie. And I made a couple of £100 from that. And that tells you how many DVDs we had, because you can usually sell them back for only like 50p or £1. And then the special editions might be £2 at most. But yeah, so it tells you how many we had. But there are multiple different options for you out there for selling things. You've got Facebook Marketplace, you've got eBay, you've got Gumtree. There's loads of different ways to do it. So if you're willing to put the time and the effort in, perfect. Just make sure that you actually follow through and actually get the items out of your house. Because what you will end up finding, and this is something that I've fallen into the trap of in the past, is that you create a pile of, oh, that's my sell pile, I'm going to sort those out. And actually it just ends up going into a box or a bag in the back of a cupboard, because one day you're going to get round to it, you're going to get it listed on eBay and you're going to get it sold. But actually you don't end up doing it. So just ask yourself, is it worth the time and the energy to sell it? Is it worth you taking the time to put that listing up, to take the photos, to do the descriptions, then do the admin of the purchases, wrapping it up and taking it to the post office and get it posted off? Are you willing to do that? And what we decided actually with ours is that we had so much stuff that we could potentially sell, is that we decided that we were going to donate anything that was worth less than a certain amount. So if I said, right, if I'm going to get more than £10 for this, I'll sell it. But if it's anything lower than £10, it's not really worth the time and effort that I'm going to have to put in to get rid of it and to sell it. So that was the cut-off for us, and that really helped, because that helped me make real decisions of like, well, actually, how much could I possibly sell this for? Have a quick look on the internet. If I could sell it for over £10, perfect. Let's do it. Let's action it. Let's get it done. Because you knew you were going to get a decent value for it. And that's more of a drive. It's more of a motivator for you to get going and get that out there and sold, for you to get that money back. But if you were selling things that perhaps you might get £2-3 for, it's not much of a motivator. So that was for us a really helpful differentiation to go, actually, I'm not going to get much for this. I'm just going to donate it. I'm going to give it to a charity shop. Someone is going to love, someone's going to need this, and I'm going to donate that. And I'm going to save my time and energy. So what I would say is just hold yourself accountable when it comes to selling items. Set yourself a deadline to list the items for sale, and set yourself also time limits for how long you're going to have these things for sale and to have available, because there's some things that I would put on for sale and then I would forget that they were on there, like perhaps like not with eBay where you've got like an auction time limit, things like on Gumtree, and they might be on there for 2-3 months and you're like, oh, actually I forgot I had that. So just give yourself deadlines for A, when you're going to put it up for sale, and then B, when you're actually going to sell it. And if it gets too long and you're still storing it, you're still waiting for someone to buy it, then it might be worth donating it. And as an add-on to that as well, I would also give yourself time limits to donate. So if there's a collection of items that you're going to donate, either pop them in a box or a bag, get them in the back of your car and just take them straight there, or say, actually, do you know what, I'm heading into town on Thursday, I'll drop them in when I go down. Because otherwise all these things are just going to hang around indefinitely, and you're going to end up with lots of bags, lots of boxes hanging around your house that are all action items, and that's just going to weigh you down again. It's like an additional, it's compounding the anxiety and the stress that you've got from the clutter. It's adding that because you've got you've got a list of other things to sell or to donate and do. There's more actions there for you to take. So the quicker you get them out of your house, the better. So that's it. That's the 4 main financial fears, and I'm sure one of them, if not all of them, have come up for you. I know they have for me. So whether you worry about the perceived wastage of money when you're letting go of unused items, or you worry about having to replace decluttered items, or you've got the fear of getting rid of something that potentially has value in the future, or you've got the pressure to try and recoup some of the money that you feel as though you have lost, I'm putting those in inverted commas, by selling unwanted items. I'm sure you can resonate with this episode, and I hope that some of the things that I've talked through today has really resonated with you and helps you to think about things in a slightly different way, so you can get through those fears and start decluttering those items from your home. And I think this episode, as well as the last one, just really goes to show that decluttering isn't solely about just dealing with objects. It's also about us grappling with emotions and fears and a lot of worries that are connected to your possessions. And by acknowledging and facing these fears that we're going to do over the next few episodes, we can really try to make the decluttering process much less daunting and much more empowering for you. So thank you for joining me today on the Simple Joy Show. Until next time, stay simple, stay joyful, and remember, whilst on the journey of our pursuit of simplicity, we're also going to have to come across some difficult challenges and confront and conquer our fears. But don't be scared of them, because on the other side of those fears is something so much more wonderful than you can imagine. Thank thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the Simple Joy Show further, then please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at HelloSimpleJoy. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.